Today in coaching, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Badditudes.
Badditude. Bad
You ready?
attitude.
Badditude. Bad attitudes. Yeah.
Okay. What you got?
So, not too long ago, I had someone that was a manager and going through a leadership training program. And he was overheard just before walking into training, telling his whole team, I have to go to this stupid training. I know.
Ouch.
Ouch is right. And, it's one thing to think in your head that I got to go to this stupid training.
Mhm.
It's another thing to say it out loud because that really impacts what people are hearing. And it says a lot of things about that particular person. And it starts to create this culture of maybe disengagement
Mm.
or people who don't value learning and development.
Sure, I'm just imagining myself in that situation. And I feel like if I heard my manager be like, "Oh man, this stupid training," or like, "Oh, I'm really not in the mood for this today," I feel like my whole attitude would also be like, "Okay, so what are we doing this for?" Right? Like,
Yeah.
mm.
So it's really interesting. This brought back one of my favorite songs growing up. I was totally in love with Donny Osmond, and I was sure I was going to marry him. That was like I knew his birthday. I knew he loved purple. I had purple socks because he wore purple socks. Anyway, the Osmond brothers, they had a song called One Bad Apple. And this made me think of this, even though the lyrics are not really fitting. The lyrics say, one bad apple, don't spoil the whole bunch, girl. But I tend to think that sometimes one bad apple or one bad attitude can impact the team. It can spoil the whole bunch.
Mm-hmm.
One bad apple doesn't, but one bad attitude totally can. What do
Absolutely. Has there ever been a time maybe you're doing facilitation coaching or just maybe back in the corporate days even when you um weren't having such a good attitude, but you kind of course corrected yourself on that, or was there a day where maybe you didn't and you noticed that that had an impact?
Yeah, yes, on me, but and on others, I feel it more on me when I have a bad attitude. Like it hit.
Mm-hmm.
I used to tell this story. I still tell this story in coaching and when I'm doing training sessions. That when I lived in Houston and did the corporate work, I would go in early in the morning to beat Houston traffic because traffic was wicked in Houston.
Sure.
And I would go in 5:30, 6 in the morning just to beat the downtown traffic since I had to go through downtown. And there would be this one morning or this one week I was in town because I traveled a ton. This one week I was in town and going down the road, 4 or 5 lane road one way through downtown Houston. And I could see these orange barrels up ahead with flashing lights. And this little silver car came around and cut me off just before the barrels.
Mm-hmm.
There's like multiple other lanes on the other side, but they were on the left, came around and cut me off. And so I immediately went into my Badditude, my bad attitude. I was like, oh, I was probably cussing at them and honking my horn and all that. It's been a few years. I don't remember
Road
exactly,
rage.
but I total a little bit of road rage. And, got to work. Everything was fine. Got to work and felt a little grumpy, but I hadn't really given it a lot of thought. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it happened again the next day. I don't think it was the same car, but got cut off at that kind of same place. And I thought, I maybe this person is a doctor and needs to get to the hospital because the hospital course is a hospital corridors down the road. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of adjusted my thinking, told myself a story because I had no idea, right? And changed my perspectives like, well, maybe they had to get to something a little bit more important. And I realized how much my attitude was impacting me because I
Mm-hmm.
felt so much better that morning after having created a different story than I had on the day where I had this crappy attitude. I mean, it was a couple of hours. So that I know it impacts me.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think I've seen in other places when somebody will say, "Hey, are you okay? What's wrong today? You're not yourself." Those sorts of things. People see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
you and I, we've seen it in each other.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
when energy's off or whatever. So
Mhm.
the bad attitude can get in the way.
It can get in the way. I'm just thinking from like a remote work perspective. First of
Yeah.
all, I would say that's super interesting too, that you went kind of in the direction of it affecting yourself and kind of having that tool, that little mind trick to say, hey, okay, maybe there's something behind the scenes that I don't know, and the fact that that can make yourself feel better. I think that's a really nice strategy. I was just thinking too, sometimes I get in a bit of a mood being someone who works from home quite often and really not having a whole lot of contact with other people unless, for example, going to co-working.
Mhm.
Um, so co-working office I was at recently, and there's not a bad attitude involved in this, but I noticed just kind of getting myself out of my own space and into another space where people were working and they weren't really even communicating with each other. They were just in there doing their work. I would call it an attitude of productivity, how I got so much more done in the space of time that I was there than at home when I'm kind of like, oh, let's do the laundry. And I hate doing laundry. Like, why am I talking about doing the laundry? So it's interesting, even, just kind of having that surrounding. But yeah, I remember back in the day when I was working with some other teams, and there were some, um, especially in living in different countries, actually, having different attitudes toward work. And that really affected me personally. So we're going to talk about like how, not necessarily affecting other people, but that is, I had a colleague who was just really not interested in the work and would talk about it pretty openly, and it didn't really make me want to be there more.
Mhm.
So yeah, definitely. And it's something I don't think we talk about enough in kind of like the self-leadership aspect, is like, what kind of impact are we making on other people when we just make a comment that just feels like an offhand, yeah, it doesn't
Mhm.
feel like a big deal, but maybe it is a big deal for someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's just it. Our words matter, our behavior matters, our actions matter, our attitudes matter. And we have the complete control over our attitude. Man, we can be having a rough day, but go deal with it. Go
Mhm.
take care of yourself for a moment. If you need some time out, go to the bathroom, go for a walk, go
Yeah,
get coffee somewhere, go get your tea, get the thing that allows you space to breathe. So you're not bringing that attitude in and poisoning someone else. Now, if you got a great attitude, bring it on.
share it.
Bring it on,
Oh, that's important.
unless,
That's important to say, because we are going to have bad days and we are going to be in a rough spot, and that's just a part of life. And going in knowing that and
Mhm.
having some sort of strategy, whether that's a 5-minute walk or a 15-minute down the street for a coffee break, just get out
Mhm.
of my surroundings. I think having that sort of plan in advance and being like, okay, when I'm not feeling so good, what am I going to do? And having a strategy in place is such an effective way to deal with it.
Yeah, those 10-minute yoga, not yoga, those 10-minute meditation.
Hmm.
They're
Hmm.
YouTube. There's a couple of them on YouTube. I think we can find some links and connect here.
Yeah.
Those
Okay.
are also a great space to give yourself that 10-minute break to
Hmm.
get away, step
Hmm.
away and get real with yourself.
Hmm.
I also want to say that if you have such a Pollyanna perfect positive attitude all the time, that it can also, people can be like, is this real?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think being able to make sure that you're being authentic is the key word
Sure.
in the positive space, so that it's not coming off as fake.
Hmm.
Yeah, be real. It's okay to have different emotions. It's how we manage them. It's okay to have something, it's okay to have an attitude, but how do we manage it on others?
Yeah.
So
Great idea. I'll add some links to the breathing meditations and body scan meditations in the description on YouTube. But there were some studies done that mindfulness meditations, even just in 7-minute chunks, can have a significant difference on pro-social behavior. So not even how you behave yourself, but your willingness to kind of interact differently with others in a positive way. So that's a pretty cool thing. I'll drop that in the link too if anyone wants to nerd out on some science.
I love it. Wow. Hey, well, thanks for talking about this today. I
Yeah,
appreciate
great. Definitely inspired me not to go to work with a bad attitude tomorrow
it.
morning.
No Badditudes allowed. Well, we'll see you next time for Today in Coaching. Okay.
All right.
Ciao.
Ciao.